Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the SEO and View series brought to you by ProLemon and presented to you by me, Z. In today's episode, we'll be covering URL structures, what they are, how they function, why they're important, and things you need to know about them. Today's going to be a bit of a shorter video, hopefully at the very least, and we're going to kick through this as quickly and efficiently as possible. All right, let's begin. What are URLs? Well, URL structure or Uniform Resource Locator structures refers to the way web addresses are formatted to identify and locate resources on the internet. Okay, we'll get into this more later, but basically the internet is a bunch of points on a network. And in order to identify something on this network, everything has a unique address. Sometimes we call these the IPs, but more oftentimes than not, we just use URLs, right? They are easier to understand because they're not numbers, they're not digits, they're not points, they're just letters that spell out where we need to go, and we use these in place of IPs for the larger majority of things. If you have an IP to a specific website, for example, if you Google Google's IP, sorry about that. If you search a Google IP, or if you search an IP online, there are plenty of them all over the place, and you type the IP into your URL bar, it'll take you to the website you want to go to. Okay? An effective and well organized URL is important for both users and search engines. Okay? The more easily understandable and structured URLs are, my tongue is going to twist, I guarantee it, the easier it is for search engines to find what it is they're looking for. Okay, we have some examples in the text, which I will show you. But in general, you just want your URLs to be concise, clean, easy to look at, easy to navigate, and under a certain length. All right. As well as if you are doing SEO, your URL should contain your keyword that you are targeting for a specific page. Okay, let's move on. All right. Important points for URL structure, okay? Like I said, they need to be clean and descriptive, right? Aim for URLs that are clear, concise, and descriptive. Users should be able to understand the content of a page just by looking at the URL, or should at least understand where they are in terms of the website just by looking at the URL, okay? If you're like me and you're on internet, you've been with the internet since the day you were born, you can move around the internet quite easily just by using the URLs. For example, if you're on a website and you notice a structure, you know, okay, I want to go back to this page, but I don't want to click back or click here or click that. You just type it in the URL bar, you edit the URL, and you go to where you need to be. It's something that you pick up like a language, it's instinctive. That's the beauty of a clear and descriptive URL. You can use those skills in order to navigate a website. Okay? Use keywords, like I said. Whenever possible, include relevant keywords in your URL. Can contribute to search engine optimization, uh, SEO, by providing search engines with context about the content of the page. All right. If you have a keyword targeted on that page, put it in your URL if at all possible. Hyphens for separations. Use hyphens to separate words in URLs if you can. Avoid underscores as they can be misinterpreted by search engines, and spaces are not allowed. All right. So if you need to separate words, usually we can use something called camel case, where the first letter of the word can be capitalized, but that doesn't oftentimes work. So use hyphens to separate the words if needs be. All right. Most of the times people just kind of squish everything together, and that's just how it works. But if you want to make it look a little bit nicer, you can use hyphens for separation. Just avoid underscores, as that can oftentimes lead to confusion with search engines, as underscores are oftentimes part of longer URLs for directly navigating to a specific blog or section of the website. Okay. Lowercase lettering. Keep all letters in lowercase. URLs can be case sensitive, and using consistent lowercase letters can help prevent duplication issues. All right. So in general, try and keep everything lowercase. URLs can be case sensitive, not always. Okay. If you type YouTube, for example, in all caps, it'll still take you to YouTube. In fact, let me just double check that. Yep, it just takes you straight to YouTube. See, guys, it's always important for me to just double check my own work sometimes because sometimes I can ramble on. But yeah, so for certain things like I know Google Forms, for example, SurveyMonkey, all of these kinds of websites with specific URLs for specific pages, those can be case sensitive. But in general, your main URLs oftentimes are not. Okay? Avoid special characters. These include things like the @ symbol, hashtag symbol, uppercase symbol, @ symbol, apostrophes, all of these things. Try and avoid those where at all possible. So you want to kind of stick to letters, numbers, hyphens, and the standard punctuation marks for the most part. You don't want to add anything too specific in there because that can really mess the search engines up. Sometimes and in general, you kind of want to avoid apostrophes as well. So in general, try and keep it as simple and concise as possible. Keep it short and simple. Keep URLs as short and simple as possible while accurately conveying the content. Avoid unnecessary parameters or strings. Basically what they mean there, avoid stuff like specific variables or lettering and all of that, right? Let's move on to the next one. Structure and hierarchy. Organize URLs in a hierarchical structure that reflect the structure of your website, right? For example, example.com/category/subcategory/page. This is very, very important. All right. Usually, once you build a URL or you set your URL for your website and it's been around for a while, you don't want to change it because then you have to set up redirects for people who are clicking on that, and that can affect your backlinking strength. That can affect a lot of things on your website. So, in general, you want to set your hierarchy as early as possible and stick to it. All right. Be consistent. Maintain consistency in your URL structure across your website. Consistency makes it easier for users and search engines to navigate your website, but it also just shows a little bit extra professionalism while you're actually doing this, all right? Avoid dynamic parameters. What this means is minimize use of dynamic parameters, i.e. query strings with numbers and symbols. Basically, if you have, for example, a filtering system in your website, try and avoid having that directly affect the URL. Try and stick to static URLs because oftentimes if you change some parameters, those pages suddenly no longer exist or you get powerful errors and that can cause a whole lot of issues. Try and avoid that. Try and keep your URLs as static as possible when you can. Include canonical tags. If your content is accessible through multiple URLs, use canonical tags to indicate the preferred version of that actual URL. This helps avoid duplicate content issues. HTTPS. If your website is secured with HTTPS, which is basically hypertext protection. I can't remember the exact abbreviation now, but basically, usually this involves an SSL or SLL, certificate, which is just basically a way of securing the connection to and from your website, right? Most websites should have these. All websites should have these. Buy one if you have to. They're very important. Ensure that your URLs are using this and that if anybody ever types, for example, HTTP and then the URL, that they get redirected to HTTPS. All right, a lot of servers do this by default, but just to be safe, ensure that it's active on your website. Search engines prioritize secure websites, and if your website is not secure and using something like Google Chrome, you might get a pop-up that says this site is not secure, this site is unsafe, which can drastically hurt your performance. All right. Ensure that your URLs are actually readable, right? Make them user-friendly. Avoid strings of characters or codes that do not convey meaningful information. Here's once more an example of a well-structured URL. Example.com/category/product-page. For example, that is very easy to read. If I want to know, I just want to go back to the category page, I can just delete page and product, and I can be back there where I need to be. It's super simple, super effective, super important for you to get right from the beginning. Okay, why does it matter? URLs are universal on the internet, all right? And while you don't spend every waking moment typing them into the search bar, a well-structured URL allows for an easier sense of navigation while on the internet, okay? And once you set a URL, it's practically permanent. You want it to be permanent, okay? You don't want to change the URL. You don't want to set up redirects. You don't want that page to be lost. You want your website from the get-go to be as healthy, sustainable, and powerful as possible in the long run. You want to ensure that everything is the way it needs to be from the word go. Okay? Well, that concludes today's video. Hope you found it interesting. Hope I didn't take up too much of your time. I'm trying to get these down a little bit faster, trying to get these a little bit shorter as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to hit them down in the comments down below, and I'll get back to you ASAP. Cheers.